So in the last video, we talked about some of the limitations of mindset. And in this video, we're going to talk about 5 steps we can take to really tap into the powerful potential of the concept of mindset so that we can help the people we are teaching, leading, coaching to tune into their highest potential, their unique form of genius and brilliance. So the 5 concepts I want to talk about, the first is we need to expand our idea about mindset. So to not just limit ourselves to this being about skills and skills related to learning things like athletics, coaching, and also academics, but also that we are expanding it into understanding how we learn about our perspectives, our perceptions of reality, that we learn about where things like our fear of failure, our fear of other people, our fear of discomfort, where our judgments come from, where disgust and hatred and us versus them mentality comes from. So that we're learning a bit more about that, because we tend to forget that the mindset is our belief and our beliefs are learned. So to expand our idea of mindset into not just those behaviors that we can see, but expand our idea of mindset and learning into how we see others, how we see the world, because that has a very big influence on our choices and behaviors, how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. The next is that we have an understanding of 2 types of neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity being our brain's ability to change and grow and evolve. But this is coming from Jeffrey M. Schwartz, who has research on self-directed neuroplasticity. There are 2 types of ways that our brain can get influence. One is through bottom-up stimulus coming from our external environments, and the second one is top-down, so more of a meta process where we can use our mind to change our brain. We can focus on things, we can focus our conscious awareness on different things, and that can have an effect on the neural activity that happens, which then affects the brain architecture and the different networks that get myelinated. So that can be through things like imagination and visualization and self-reflection. The third is more modeling, more focus on modeling rather than explaining or talking about mindset. So modeling, and specifically modeling in moment-to-moment interactions. And then a very specific thing I want to talk about modeling is the modeling of 3 types of more kind of a deeper mindset, which is self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-regulation. So self-awareness and self-regulation. So those being that self-reflection being that we focus on having moments of the day where we are taking time before we enter the workplace, before we enter our relationships, where we reflect on how we desire to be within those relationships. That can lead to higher levels of self-awareness of some of our patterns and our triggers, and that can lead to higher levels of self-regulation in the moment, where we are possibly pausing before we have our automatic reaction, and even if we have an automatic reaction, there's maybe a moment where we reflect and we're aware of it and we can respond differently. So we need more models of this, and we need more adult, grown-up models of this specifically, because these skills are things that, because of how our brain develops, we have a little bit less quick access to that when we are younger. And children that are not in the presence of models of these types of skills tend to not be able to develop those skills, those neural networks, through mirror neuron and biofeedback processes. So we need more grown-ups modeling self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-regulation, so that our children can be in the presence of these models and learn these skills. 4th is that we need more exposure to diverse data. And what I mean, there's 2 levels of data that we need to diversify. The first is external data. We need to be exposing ourselves to a higher variety of people's experiences, backgrounds, histories, perspectives, because what tends to happen when we go into a mindset, which is a set of beliefs and attitudes, is that we're holding something to be true. We believe that to be reality, to be truth, and as soon as there is an exception to that, we can no longer hold it to be true anymore. So the more we are exposing ourselves to a variety of conversations, even the sources of information of where we get things from, the kinds of people we talk to, the more we expose ourselves to that, the more exceptions we are going to see to some of the things we hold true. And that's going to ignite more brain activity, more diverse brain activity, which can lead to higher levels of innovation and insight, and can just get us out of many of our knee-jerk reactions to things, which are not really self-reflective or self-regulated. So more exposure to that diverse data, so not only from the external environment, which is the bottom up, but also exposure to more of our internal environments, so to diverse data, meaning that we take time every day to go inward and to have more inner reflection where we're not using our five senses, we're not reacting to other people's behavior, and we take time to expose ourselves to the inner data that can happen through that imagination and insight and reflection. So those are two different types of exposure to diverse data that we need to be aware of, that we can increase. And the last thing is a sense of purpose, and very specifically something called self-transcendent purpose, that it can be very helpful when we are trying to encourage people to learn something new, whether it's learning about mindset or just learning any kind of skill, when they can sense that they have a purpose bigger than just themselves, not just a self-serving, like I just want to be famous or successful, but that they have a value, they have something to contribute to something bigger than themselves. We see in a lot of the research that this encourages people to persevere through challenges. So they understand there's just something bigger that they're here to do. So if we can encourage that, that can also help with our idea of mindset, not just leaving it to the academics, but going to that self-transcendent purpose. So lastly, I just want to say that I'm very proud to be wearing this necklace. I'm going to mispronounce his name, so I'm not going to say his name here, but he calls himself the Autism Artist. He's in Toronto, and I'm going to put his website on the comments below so that you can check it out. He paints, and he is autistic, and he's a great example of being in the presence of someone who is very self-reflective and aware, someone who has high expectations of what he was capable of, that there's multiple forms of genius and ways of expressing our genius in the world, and that he has this self-transcendent purpose. He knows that he's here to contribute to something more than just him. So it's a beautiful story that you can check out. And lastly, I just want to say too that I do offer, I'm offering some neuroscience intensive weekends in Chicago if you're in the area, but if not, I'm going to be offering some of them online in the future, as well as some new articles and videos about these concepts. So subscribe to my YouTube channel or my website at stephaniefayfrank.com and leave me any comments you'd like, or on the contact form any questions you have. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to hear from you.